Welcome to Lowry Sports Rhetoric. Your hosts today are Nathan and Damon Lowry. Today we're going to do our first in a probably semi-regular segment called Armchair GM.
Today's topic on our Armchair GM will be the quarterback situation for each NFL football team. This is a discussion that Nate and I have had over the years many, many times, usually leading up to free agency and the draft, and then again leading up to the season, and then sometimes about midway through the season, yet again, where we go through division by division, team by team, and say, if I'm the GM of that team, how do I feel about my quarterback? And then what do we think the actual GM thinks, and what might they do in free agency, draft, trades, those kinds of things. So that's the goal today, is to go team by team and give you our thoughts on those quarterbacks. So we're going to start with the AFC East, Buffalo Bills. So Nate, if you're the GM of the Buffalo Bills, how do you feel about your quarterback situation?
I'm in love with my quarterback situation.
I think that's about all that we need to say about that, because I don't know how you could not be in love with Josh Allen being your quarterback.
Yes.
So then we'll move on to the Jets. If you're the New York Jets, how do you feel about your quarterback situation?
I think that I'm cautiously optimistic about going forward. Wouldn't necessarily say impressed, but I will say that it's too early to throw the talent on anything, and he did show signs of being a decent quarterback. So we'll have to see going forward.
Yeah, you're obviously married to him. You drafted him too early to move on in the next couple of years. Like you said, some bright spots, some red flags, and that's the case with almost every quarterback.
Absolutely.
So we'll see where he goes.
Absolutely.
Okay, how about the Patriots?
I think if I'm a Patriots GM, I am very happy with my young rookie quarterback. I think he's just going to get better as time goes, and he certainly did not look bad this year.
Well, as you know, and the audience does not yet, I love Mac Jones.
Yes,
I
you do.
wanted Mac Jones on the Bears so bad. I practically cried when they drafted Josh Fields instead.
I actually think you did cry.
I might have cried. There were probably tears. So yeah, obviously, if I'm a Patriots GM, Bill Belichick, the quarterback coach, the fan base, I think my star is that the Bears were too stupid to realize that Mac Jones is better than Justin Fields.
I've listened to this for a year now. Okay.
Okay, so then the last in that division is the Miami Dolphins. How you feeling about that situation?
I think I'm probably not even necessarily optimistic. I don't know. I personally myself am a little bit. I didn't really like him anyways. I thought he was overrated coming out of college, so I'm probably a little down on him anyhow. Again, I think that he's almost kind of like like Wilson, where he has shown some kind of signs of doing good, but at this point he's much more tenured, so it's a different situation. I think if this was his rookie year and he plays the way that he does, then it's like, okay, maybe even his second year. But I think at this point he's starting to wear thin on me if I'm a GM. We'll have to see how they go, but personally myself, I would let him go. I don't necessarily think that's what they'll do, but I would let them go.
Yeah, I'm of the same mindset. They have a ton of draft capital, a ton of free agents, a ton of salary cap space. I would, I don't think there's anything on the free agent market I'd be going after. But of all the teams in the NFL, I think they're the best position to make a run at a Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson or maybe even Deshaun Watson. There's rumors out there that they thought about him last year, but the lawsuits were a red flag for them. I don't think it feels like a team that outside of the quarterback position is ready to start winning.
Agreed.
And if you plug in Wilson or Rodgers, you're going to be a Super Bowl contender as soon as that trade's made.
Yeah, I think I personally agree, and I think again, if it wasn't for all of the capital that they still have and all of that stuff, it might be more of a lean on him kind of a situation. Probably more of a likelihood that they're going to stick with him through the year. But again, agreed. I mean, they're almost one of very few teams that are in the position to actually be able to offer some big capital to either one of these teams that are getting, either Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. I actually think Deshaun Watson is a very good possibility as well. So
yeah, and none of those quarterbacks that have. We've never heard of anybody using a trade clause to keep them from going to South Beach. So
sure,
they might not be that might be what they're publicly thinking, but when push comes to shove, we can send you to South Beach and still get what we want. I think it'd be hard to turn down.
And
that
again,
trade.
as you pointed out, they do have some stuff on the roster.
They got some. They got decent.
garbage,
They
so.
definitely have a good young roster. I feel like. But like you, I mean, especially with them letting go of Brian Flores and one of the, which shocked both of us, and one of the talking points being because he wasn't sold to Tua and they wanted their coach to believe in Tua.
Yeah.
That makes me skeptical. They're going to make one of those moves.
It does me too.
I just think they should.
Yeah. I think they should. I just not necessarily agree. I don't. But it's just like, we talked about it during the draft last year. I told him very specifically, I think the right move for them would have been to draft Herbert, and not last year, but a couple years ago, draft Herbert and not draft Tua. But I said that I think that they're going to draft Tua because they don't necessarily make the best decisions all the time. So
yeah. Okay, so AFC North. Let's start with Baltimore.
Yeah. I mean, again, like. I feel like there's two camps when it comes to him, where some people just fully love him and go like, of course you keep him. I'm not sure I'm necessarily in that camp. I like him. He obviously does bring that different dynamic running and stuff like that. But I feel like, man, he really has not panned out to be as good as I was thinking he was going to be, and I think the majority of the people were thinking is going to be. And I do think with those style of run quarterback that you have, he's damn good at it, but man, it's like he just has not reached a top level, and I probably would be starting to get worn thin. I'm not quite sure this is the year that you give up on him, but I probably am going to be keeping an eye on him moving forward.
Yeah, I think this year you need him to show you, he's probably going to be asking for 45, 50 million a year.
Yeah, is he worth that?
And I think he's got to he's got to do a new level of play for sure. And I've been a fan of his since he joined the league. I thought he did really good things as a rookie, but it feels like as teams have kind of caught on to what he's good at and what he's not good at, he's less and less effective. And I don't know how you pay a guy that kind of money unless he shows you there's another level to what he can do. So that would be I'm giving him another year to show it, but then I'm going to be quite concerned if he doesn't.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly where I'm at. Like, not ready to hit the panic button yet, but I'm hovering my hand over it and just kind of waiting.
And I fully expect that they'll take that approach. Like, that's what I would expect from them.
Sure.
The Bengals.
If I'm the Bengals, I'm extremely excited about my quarterback situation. Now, there is a little bit of a medical look, but obviously we could just go, dude, he just did something that, man, of course he didn't win. Yeah. But he took them there, and man, I mean, if I'm a Bengals fan, the expectations were not there. That was not the expectations I had going into that season. So I think overplayed that expectations. That team looks good, and I'm happy with my quarterback.
Oh yeah, if you're a Bengals fan, you're naming your kid Joe or Burrow. You're buying the jerseys. You're ready for a 15-year run of
absolutely
of this is my guy. I'm gonna love him forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean I think. I can't even imagine the things I would do to have him be a Bear instead of a Bengal. I think we're definitely in agreement. And obviously, it's beyond obvious they're not doing a thing with him. He's other than hopefully building a better offensive line.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing.
That's the
only thing. If I'm their GM, the only thing I'm going is we need to upgrade our offensive line to protect this kid. Browns.
Yeah, the Brown situation's interesting. I think Baker Mayfield is so tough for me because I feel like I like the kid a lot. I do like him, and I'm sure that that's probably how they feel as well, personality-wise. But, man, he has struggled. Now, I know that he was under significant injuries last year, much more than he even would let out. But, man, did it look rough. And it just seems like year after year he almost performs less and less and less, and obviously that's concerning when you start talking about people getting film on him, or maybe even him getting into his own head and not being able to get out of it or something. I'm not sure. I really would hope that it was injuries that kind of affected him this year, because he did not play up to the level that I thought he was going to play at. And if I'm a Browns GM who's looking at my team and the roster that I have on that team, I'm going to try to let somebody else have the figure out if he's a franchise quarterback truly or not. I want to win right now. I have the roster to win right now. On paper, they look like just such a better team than they performed last year, and I would be in the hunt to try to get an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson or a Deshaun Watson.
Which all the rumors out there, the Browns are almost always included in every one of those guys.
Yes.
As well as Wentz and Derek Carr.
Yes.
And the one that I personally think might be the most likely, just because it makes too much sense, the Kirk Cousins because the coach was Kirk Cousins' coach. He knows what he has. You're not going to have to pay him. It's probably not going to cost you a lot of draft capital. So if the coach and the GM come together and say, hey, I know I can win with Kirk Cousins, and it's not going to cost us a lot. He's already made his money off of Minnesota, so you're going to get by paying him less. I just think like that might be what we end up seeing happening.
Yes.
If I had to guess, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think the Kirk Cousins is definitely probably the top object on there.
Now, if I'm
likelihood at least.
Right, but I think you have to kick the tires on those other guys first.
Dude, if you bring in Aaron Rodgers to Cleveland with the roster that they have on their team,
I mean
it's they're Super Bowl contenders right there. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
for
like,
sure,
it's just,
for sure, or Wilson or Watson. Like,
I felt like they were close to being Super Bowl contenders with Baker Mayfield. So yeah, if you bring in one of them guys, I think it definitely elevates your roster for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's probably our first team where we both kind of expect some kind of move to be made. Hard to know for sure which one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be necessarily ready to call him a bust yet. I think he definitely has potential, but it's just not from that organization and the way that their team's built. You got to win right now.
Well, and like we talked about this last year with Mitch Trubisky and the Bears. It's like there's some ups and downs. I think Baker's better than Mitch Trubisky. There's some ups and downs, but at a certain point, you just go, it ain't going to work here. Whatever this kid's got, this organization's not going to find it.
Yeah, and I'm not.
And
even
I kind of feel that way with Cleveland.
I'm not 100% convinced he is better than Trubisky. I don't know.
Oh, you're not 100% sold that Baker's better than Trubisky?
I'm not. I'm not. I want to be. I like I said, I really like Baker Mayfield's personality. I very much levitate towards him, but just seeing on the field, I don't know because I don't know that we fully understand what Trubisky is even at this moment in time.
Sure,
I just don't.
Sure. But you know what? Okay, so let's do a different quarterback comparison then. Let's say, I was a big fan of Tannehill coming out of college. I couldn't understand why he was struggling so much at Miami. And then when he got that opportunity at Tennessee, he played much better. It feels like sometimes
he still has
when you're that high draft pick,
a little bit of a level drop though. But
yeah. But if I think there's teams out there that would love to have if Baker Mayfield could be a Tannehill level player.
Right. That's right.
There's teams out there that would love to have him at that.
Absolutely.
So I think sometimes that guy, if you're not the superstar, it doesn't mean you're horrible.
Yeah.
But it's time for that team that drafted you to be the superstar to move on because they're always going to want you to be that guy, and they're never going to settle for you just being average or slightly above average, and that's probably where Baker's at this point in his career.
Agree. Yeah, I think Cleveland's probably ready to move on.
I think so. It's just hard to project. Kirk Cousins makes the most sense because it's the easiest, but it's the NFL. Things will be crazy.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think that's probably the most likely quarterback to go to them.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so then that leaves Pittsburgh, which obviously Pittsburgh's got to do something.
Yeah, Pittsburgh got to do something. They got to do something. And,
can they trade? Is it still? It seems like that would have been the number one destination for somebody a couple of years ago because it's like plug me in and we can win. But are they still that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I know that they've got some attractive looking wide receivers, especially if they can. If they continue to lock up Juju Smith-Schuster, that he might be leaving the team. But if they're able to lock him up, I personally feel like a lot of the downsides of that wide receiving core the last couple of years has been Ben Roethlisberger's ability to actually throw the ball to him.
Yeah.
Especially as the season went through. So I think if I was a GM of their team, I would look at the wide receiving core and say, like, I bet you that there is some quarterbacks that would like to utilize them and be able to.
Well, and you got a running back you can lean on to take some pressure off.
Absolutely.
Maybe you need to upgrade that offensive line. I think that defense recovered a lot quicker than we thought they would, and it could be on the verge of getting back with just a couple key additions.
Agreed.
Could be on the verge of getting back to being a good defense.
So
there's a lot of good pieces there.
Yeah.
But who are you getting? I mean, it's like, are you trading? Like, if you can trade,
I think that they do have a lot of capital, though. I think, from what I was reading, that they could definitely make a play for one of these big guys. And to be honest with you, I can see that as a very viable option for Aaron Rodgers to go to.
Yeah, I think Rodgers and Watson both make a lot of sense if they want to go there. Not Watson, Russell Wilson. I think Watson.
Don't necessarily think Watson.
I don't think Watson's a fit there because the Hunt family tends to want to avoid controversy.
Sure,
we've seen them drop really good players when controversy sniffs around.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they'll go down that route.
But I also think that it's very possible that they go out in the draft. Well, I mean, where are they picking at? You know what I mean? Because I don't think.
I mean, look, if
I would love to see them get that Pickett kid from Pitt, but obviously you'd have to trade a whole lot of mess.
Well, maybe. We don't know. I guess we'll see after the combine what the talk is.
Yeah.
I mean, we both have said that we think Pickett and Willis are the two first round talents. we know more will add to them after the combine because that's the nature of the NFL draft. So yeah, I mean, if they could get Pickett, if they're in a position to get him, I mean, they missed the playoffs, so they can't beat that low. I mean,
yeah, but you would still have to trade up. I think
it's potential. The pick is close, or it doesn't take a ton to trade up to get them because they're not that far away.
Especially because we're looking at a lot of good defense.
It depends on. I think it depends a lot on some of these trades we're talking about.
Yeah.
Some of the who gets who in free agency, who still has availability. Yeah. So maybe they go pick in the draft. I think they're a team that could maybe try to trade. Like Derek Carr's been rumored as a trade option.
Absolutely.
I could see them trying to go after Jimmy Garoppolo.
Sure.
I've seen it said that your boy Wentz might be going there. That there seems to be some. So I just feel like their name is everywhere.
It's obviously
because it's an obvious need.
It's one of the most needy teams for.
Yeah, and I don't think they're in full rebuild mode, so I don't know that it makes sense for them to take a chance on a quarterback that's not a surefire thing. So I think you're looking for more. They're a very likely team to try to trade. Whether they can make one work or not, we'll see.
Yeah, I could see it as a good likelihood for Rodgers, so we'll see. Okay.
Okay, so then AFC South. So let's start with your Colts. That's a fun place to start.
Yeah, and if I'm a GM or a disgruntled fan or even a casual Colts fan, I'm ready to move on from Carson Wentz. Didn't really want him in the first place last year. I convinced myself that it was going to be fun. It was going to be all good times, and man, I'm disappointed.
Yeah. So the hard thing for your team is you got a lot of free agency money, but there aren't any real solid free agent options out there.
Not really.
There's Winston and Trubisky are probably the best two. If they sign Trubisky, are you happy with that over Wentz?
I mean, not really. No, but again, I don't know. I would say that with Wentz, I know I don't want him, and I would say that with Trubisky, I'm not sure that I want him.
But leaning towards probably not. Yeah.
And I would say that most of the names that I see linked with the Colts or possibilities that we have to line him up, Wentz is almost a conundrum because of the fact that he's not the guy. But when you look at all of the free agents, you go like, are any of them the guys either?
Like you already talked about Baker earlier. You're not convinced on him, so that's not going to get you excited. That's going to be basically like them trading for Wentz last year.
That's right.
So who else? Kirk Cousins, you're not going to be excited about that.
I'm not going to be excited about that. Jimmy G, I'm not going to be excited about. The only thing is that, from what I understand, he does do a really good job of managing a run-heavy team, and I think that's what we're going to look into, obviously.
Yeah, and you look at him being healthy, Super Bowl appearance, NFC Championship appearance.
Yeah.
Like, kind of hard to deny that he can take a team there if they have a good defense and a good running game, which you guys have.
Which we have. So yeah, I do feel that way. I feel like if there is a possibility at all that we can get Derek Carr, I would be super excited to get Derek Carr. I'm a huge fan of Derek Carr. It's who I wanted last year when they were talking about the rumors. I'm not 100% sold that he is going to be getting traded. But let's say a domino hits there and Russell Wilson goes, you know what, I want to go to Vegas. I love Derek Carr. Russell Wilson's a better quarterback than Derek Carr. There's not many out there that I believe that would be available. I think that the Vegas would pull on that. And I think that if he became available, I would hope that my team would be chomping at the bit to try to go get him.
Sure. The only question would be, with your draft capital, can you outbid the other contenders?
Right.
And that might be sticky. I don't think Derek Carr has the no trade clause that the other people have.
Sure.
So you might have to outbid some people. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. It probably depends on what those other people do.
Yes.
And like you said, Derek Carr could be a domino effect where he's like in the secondary wave where, it's not happening right off the bat. It's down the road. That becomes an option and you jump on it because you drafted a guy in the second round or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I think your train of thought is pretty much where mine would be.
I mean, even looking
it's tricky because there's not a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft, so it's hard to think you can rely on that, especially where you guys are picking.
Yeah, I don't think. It's not realistic to go. We got the answer in the draft, which even in the first round, I'm not sure that there's anybody that's the answer to your problems when your team's built to win.
Now, I do think that the Malik Willis kid from Liberty shows some of the attributes that might appeal to a Frank Reich as far as the way he runs his. So maybe you draft him with your. You don't have a first round pick. That's right. He's not going to the second. You're right. You're right. I forgot about that.
Not happening. So.
Yeah, you're right. It's all the great.
I feel like honestly we are in a very, very tough position because of the fact that now I do believe I do believe that there is some stuff to Aaron Rodgers going to us because of the fact that I think that he wants to. Let's put it this way: I think we would be a viable team for him that he would want to go to. I'm not sure that we definitely have the capital to do it. I don't know that we have the availability to get that trade done, but I do believe it's something attractive to him, especially because of his ties with Pat McAfee. So it's almost like I do see that as a good fit for him personally from his perspective, especially because we have a good defense, we have a good run game, and I think we would be one of the top teams he'd ever played for, to be honest with you.
I agree. It's a home run for the Colts. It's a home run for Aaron Rodgers.
But I don't think it's a home run
for D- for the Packers.
Yes.
And the question is, are they just so desperate to not get an F that they're willing to accept the D-?
That's right. Is it an ugly divorce and everybody just ready to get done with it?
Right. Or are they willing to say, we'd rather you sit on our bench grouchy or even stay home grouchy while we fine you for not showing up to work for a year just to prove to you we're not going to let you decide where you go, which I feel like might be the route they're going to take. We'll see. Obviously, that's going to be the story of the offseason until he either gets traded or officially comes out and says I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, and when he's wearing that horseshoe, I am going to be so damn happy.
I mean, I guess I'll be happy for you. I don't think
see it happening.
I don't think that you should be allowed to have that much quarterback luck in one lifetime. To draft Manning, draft luck, and also luck into Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, boy, would I love it.
Anyway. Okay, so moving on. Jacksonville Jaguars.
Obviously, you don't move on from Lawrence. He looks so much different in that last game against us than he did the entire season. Whatever. No, I wouldn't move on from him.
No, I don't think you move on from him, obviously. I might be a little bit more nervous than I was a year ago because...
I'm not sure. That was a clown show.
Yeah, it was. But he was part of the clown show, so...
Yeah, but I don't know.
I know.
But
I think a year ago, you're just tickled pink that you got him.
Sure. Maybe your expectations have died a little bit, but just looking at him, it's like, I don't think he performed all that bad. I really don't. And especially, like I said, gosh, what a freaking clown show. And they're the ones that kept us from making the playoffs. Anyways.
We'll move on from that. That could be a whole segment by itself where you're just screaming in the mirror. I don't need to be involved in that one.
No.
Okay, so Houston. I mean, talk about a clown show.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that they were actually very happy with what they got from Mills last year. Mm-hmm. We talked about that last year where, you had felt like Mills would probably be one of these guys that would end up being much better than people projected.
Yeah, I did. I was hoping that the Bears might take the tactic of building the offensive line and then just settling for Mills later as opposed to taking a quarterback in the first round, which they didn't choose to do. Another one of those where I feel like I was right. I think for Houston, especially when you have so many other holes on the team.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that they're also in a unique position where they can look at it and go, so what if we end up keeping him? If we end up running with Mills, we're pretty happy with that. Like you said, there's other holes on the team. But if they end up getting a possibility of getting another quarterback, like maybe in the draft or something like that, I don't know. Like they might be able to look at it and go, hey, this is just too much for us to pass on. So I think that they're in the unique position that anything can happen. You know what I mean? Anything can happen. Right. And they're not winning anything. They're not in a position to do anything. So they really have the gambit of we can go strong defense in the early draft or we can go into the offense. You don't know what you are right now, and I think that they're wide open.
Right, and I think that's right. And I think trading Watson, there's a potential you might get a quarterback back in that trade. There's the potential you're obviously going to get some draft picks. Maybe some of those are future draft picks where you go, next year we're going to have the draft capital that we can move up and get.
With a better quarterback class.
If there's a better quarterback class, I think, if you're them, I think Mills is good enough to stand pat on a bad team and see how he grows. Build a team around him, and then once the team's built around him, if he ain't the guy, now it's time to see what else out there on the market.
Very cheap.
So I'm actually surprisingly satisfied if I'm their GM with my quarterback situation.
Me too. Plus, you've got the trade capital for Watson, anyways. You got all this stuff to play with him.
So hopefully that's a quick reshape.
That's right.
If people are willing to give you what you're asking for,
we'll see.
Or even like half of what you're asking for, because you're asking for a king's ransom for a guy that everybody knows is never going to play for you again.
He got some baggage. Yeah,
he's got baggage. He's never going to play for you again. And yet you still feel like you should take like half of a team's roster.
Yeah, their leverage is a little low in that.
I think
but again, I think like you said, they kind of lucked out and they got a quarterback that they feel like is at least solid.
Right.
So he did look pretty damn solid. So
sure, yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then last but not least, what's been recently the class of that division, Tennessee. how you feel. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to spin your eye on that one. But it's true.
Yes.
So, how you feeling if you're Tennessee?
To me, Tannehill's not going to get you to where you need to go. I do feel like that's another team that has the roster to win right now. But at the same time, they're kind of in the same situation a lot of other people are in, where it's what's better. You know what I mean? What's better out there? If they can actually. I see a lot of rumors linking them to Aaron Rodgers, and I think that they actually do have some capital to work with. They probably have more than we do.
And that's your nightmare.
Oh, that's my nightmare.
That's your nightmare scenario right there.
That's not. Listen,
I might not watch the NFL for 2 years just because I'm so in my bed crying with my thumb on my mouth.
That's exactly right. We're turning that NFL off. Oh my gosh, I desperately do not want this to happen. But I do feel like they could stick with him and still be happy and still be contenders. Although I do think that ceiling is starting to show itself, and they probably do have to start looking at a future. Maybe they draft a guy. You know what I mean? Maybe they. You know what I mean? So
the thing I could see too that maybe would be a little bit out of left field, but could make some sense, is Jimmy G. They both have that New England connection. Like the coach has the New England connection. Jimmy G has the New England connection. But again,
it just seems like just like we do. It's almost a lateral situation. I don't know, like.
Well, you say it's lateral, but Jimmy G I think the Titans probably have a better roster than the 49ers do. A lot of similarities, but maybe just a little bit better. A little bit better wide receivers, hair better running back, hair better defense maybe a little bit better for San Francisco, but it's similar.
Would think so, yeah.
It's similar. And I think Titans fans would much rather have had Jimmy G's results than Tannehill's results at this point.
Sure.
So maybe you go, not a huge upgrade, just a slight upgrade, but that slight upgrade might be the difference that gets us over the hump.
And they're almost in the same position as we are.
And he's very gettable. Yes. Jimmy G's very gettable.
Totally is.
So I think that could be an...
you don't have to give the farm for him. You don't have to do anything. So
right. And I think so...
And Tannehill will probably get trade value. You know what I mean? Like, you can trade Tannehill.
Well, especially if you secure Jimmy G, if you have the ability to secure him, keep Tannehill on the roster until... all the other cards fall, and then get somebody desperate. Like maybe you guys are desperate at that point, or the Browns are desperate at that point, and you can go, okay, we'll give them to you for more than the market.
I really hope we don't get Tannehill. I do not want.
If it's Tannehill or Trubisky, who are you taking?
Again, I don't know about Trubisky, so probably Trubisky.
That's going to be my favorite game until you guys have a quarterback. My favorite game is going to be this guy or Trubisky, who you actually want. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the loaded AFC West.
Yeah. This is going to be quick.
This should be quick. Chiefs.
No, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm staying with my quarterback.
Yeah, but I'm thinking
for the rest of his life.
Oh, he's got a contract. He's part owner of a local baseball team. It seems like he's there for a while.
Yeah, he's there.
Let's go to the Chargers.
Yes, absolutely.
I know you love that. You would do anything to have him be a Colt.
Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
You would break some legs, make some bodies disappear. Whatever it took, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so moving on to the Denver Broncos.
I guess that is interesting. I think that also is a destination for Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. I don't necessarily believe that's the Russell Wilson place.
I don't think Russell Wilson wants to go there.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I do think that there is some ties with Aaron Rodgers. They hired his offensive coordinator, is that correct? Or quarterback coach? Maybe it was a quarterback coach?
I think it was the coordinator, I think. The offensive coordinator is the head coach.
So I think that there is some ties there, and it's been talked about for even a couple years. Even last year was talked about. I do think that they have some capital. I think that their wide receiving core, especially as young as they are and as good as they are, is very attractive for him. And also their offensive line is not bad. It really isn't. Their defense took a couple hits, but I mean, even that, like, I feel like they're at least competitive. And I think that Aaron Rodgers, as competitive as he is, I would think it would be an attractive destination to go, oh, you mean I'm in a division that I get to compete? You know, he was in the division to compete against. Sorry, we got major malfunctions going on here. We got phones going off. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Sorry.
Unbelievable.
Forgot to turn the phone off.
In the middle of my excitement over Aaron Rodgers, your phone goes off.
I think it was a good time for you to cool down, relax. Let's just say, look, if Aaron Rodgers wants to go there, they probably, of the teams he might want to go to, they probably have the best capital. So that does make the most sense.
Yeah.
If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm going, why would I want to go somewhere that has those two guys that we just talked about.
Yeah, I was trying to have his competitiveness, but he's not stupid either.
Yeah, when he can stay at Green Bay and probably instantly go to the playoff, like by game 5, they'll be like locked for the playoffs. It feels that way as a Bears fan that like they're usually already penciled into the playoffs by game 5 every year. So why would you leave that situation?
Yeah, you think it's just a little too competitive in that division. I can see that.
I think it's so yeah, I mean, I don't know that would be my first pick if I was him. If he's just so over Green Bay that he's desperate to get
Especially
out.
after what I say about the next team when it comes up.
Right, if he's so... Right. That one might work. But, yeah. Okay, Vegas...
Well, hold on. We still got to say in the Broncos, I think that it's possible that they bring in some of these guys. Like I could see like a Mitch Trubisky going to them. I could see, or I could see them drafting a quarterback.
Watson's possible. They might be desperate enough.
I could definitely
throw
see
the
that.
kind of stuff out there.
I think that is actually one of my most likely destinations for Watson is definitely in Denver. And he would improve their team a great deal too. Not Aaron Rodgers level, but dang, he's a good quarterback. And he would, I think, be able to utilize those wide receivers very well. I think that would be a good move for Denver is to bring him in. Like you said, I mean, he's got some stuff there. But
and he's young enough that you could still build around him.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be a win now. Like, you have to be win now with Rodgers.
Yeah, I would be very excited if they brought him in if I was a Denver Broncos fan.
I think that makes some sense. It makes some sense to like that. To me, that makes more sense than the Rodgers one.
Sure.
But who knows?
Sure.
Who knows?
Sure.
Yeah. Are we good with Denver then?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Apologize again for the phone. Let's move on. Vegas. We've talked about Carr already being on the trade market.
I find that is probably a very good destination, and really so far that we talked about, to me, the best destination for Wilson, because
if Seattle's ready to move on.
It is something important to him and his wife that's been reported that she wants to have more of a nightlife. Seattle's not the place for her, and a place like Indianapolis isn't going to be a place for her. A place like Pittsburgh is probably not going to be a place for her. They want to go to somewhere where it's like big lifestyle, obviously Vegas. You know what I mean? And I do think that that's a team that is very attractive to a guy like Russell Wilson, that they have the players there that would be able to, grab his attention.
Well, the interesting thing to me, like the rumor mill that I've seen, one of the reasons that they say Derek Carr is on the thing is league-wide, they don't like the Vegas roster. They think it has a lot of holes in it. There's some small pieces, but they're young.
Right.
And so a lot of people league-wide feel like they're in a full-on rebuild mode. And that there might... So this is where the source of the... Whether you believe this or not, I mean, we've been hearing Derek Carr rumors for like 4 years now. So, and it's always a different reason.
And I've always wanted him to come
none of them seem to ever actually happen.
I know,
which makes you wonder if maybe the rest of the league just doesn't understand what's going on in Vegas. Which, being... But
they've had a lot of
being
change.
how their owner is a Davis.
And there's been a lot of change in the last year.
Sure. So maybe they do move on from Carr. But it feels like this is around the league, this is a young team. Like, so maybe Wilson's not what they want to go. Maybe they get rid of Carr for draft capital. They're in a position they can draft, who they like best of the quarterbacks because of where they're at, possibly. Especially if you add some extra draft capital so it's easy to move up a slot or two.
Maybe that's a place for a Baker Mayfield or something like that.
Or Baker, maybe bring in a Baker reclamation project. Hope that you hit lightning in the bottle.
Something that bridges the gap between
like
the
Trubisky.
time that you're ready to build a team.
Yeah, like a Trubisky. Hope that Trubisky's just been underutilized. He's young. He actually has something there that people haven't tapped into.
Or you have Marcus Mariota shot.
No, I think Mariota's moving on. We'll discuss that here in a little bit. We'll discuss Mariota moving on. I think he's done. With that. But yeah, I think there's if you like your roster, I think you almost stick with Carr, unless you can get Wilson, because that's a clear upgrade.
Yes.
If you think your roster needs to rebuild, I think you either take a chance on you go cheap with like a Trubisky, or see if you can get Mayfield for like.
You think even like a Tyrod Taylor or something like that? Just not. That's too far of a drop.
Maybe that's too far of a drop. I think you either go the route of like try somebody
Tannehill
or a Tannehill if he becomes available. Yeah. Try somebody that you know is just going to be okay. I don't even know Tannehill. I think you hope for lightning in a bottle for Mitch, or you recover Baker Mayfield, or you draft a guy and then maybe you bring in like a Fitzpatrick or somebody, Tyrod Taylor, that can start the season for you, but ultimately you're going to be turning it over to the guy that you drafted. Yeah. I can see them being one of those few teams that makes the most sense for.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's possible. But again, we always hear about Derek Carr. It never happens. So I'm going to expect this to be the same thing that's always been, which is a lot of talk, no actual action.
I'm going to finally do that because I get disappointed when I hear that he's not on the
which is why he will get traded this time, and it won't be to you.
I'll be very upset with that.
All right, so moving on to the NFC. We got the NFC East. We got the Giants. How are we feeling about the Giants?
I think that's also another destination for Russell Wilson. I feel like they are a team that does have a good roster on there, especially from a defensive perspective and stuff like that. I think that you can add a couple more pieces and make it more attractive. But again, you got the nightlife, and I do think that that's important to him.
And they got draft picks. They got extra draft picks thanks to our stupidity of trading up for Fields, and other situations that they've had. So they got the draft picks. They could do it without really hurting any of their roster. So yeah, I think that me personally, I think that might be my favorite choice for Russell Wilson.
Probably me too.
Most likely scenario for Russell Wilson.
I agree.
I do think they're probably ready to move on from Jones. I can see them also being a team because of the draft capital. They could be the team that could pry Derek Carr away from, like, just give an offer that the Raiders are like, that's too good for us to refuse. Let's let Carr go. Or maybe get Jimmy G, a proven guy that can take a team like that to.
Do you think Rodgers would be interested in that place too?
Personally, I know we view Rodgers differently. I think Rodgers is an egomaniac that loves himself so much that there's nothing, like, he is King Kong. I think if they could trade for him, he would love to go do a photo shoot hanging from the side of the Empire State Building, eating an apple and going, "I'm here to be the king of New York." Yeah. That's my view of Rodgers. Yeah. I know you have a different view of him, maybe because you're not a Bears fan, but that's my view of Rodgers. So yeah, I think Rodgers would be like, send me to the Giants.
So we're really putting Giants as an attractive place that is probably going to turn around their situation with one of these quarterbacks because they have the capital.
I think the combination of they're ready to move on from Jones. They have a good young team. They're in a weak division that's very winnable. Absolutely. And they have the draft capital to make something happen. Yeah, I think the Giants are the most likely scenario for one of these big three quarterbacks.
Which would be exciting for them.
It would be. Now, who knows? We've always said the NFL's crazy. You never know what to expect. But yeah, that would be my expectation, is that they are the most likely to pry one of those big three away. So, Philadelphia.
What a mess. What a mess.
It's been a mess for a couple of years now. Yeah, since they go to the Super Bowl with a young quarterback and what looked like a great backup.
Oh, man.
And we were talking about that might be at the time it was like, this might be the best quarterback situation in the entire league. And ever since then, it's been a mess.
It's been a mess, and I'm surprised that Jalen Hurts isn't better.
We both liked him in the draft.
I liked him in the draft. I liked him coming out of the combine. He was dropping dimes on people in the combine, and it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
He doesn't. I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah, I think if I'm a GM of that team, I'm not necessarily excited going forward with him. Can I trade to get somebody again? I'm not necessarily excited about anything that's out there at all, with the exception of the big three, obviously. Man, I don't know. Like, maybe that's a place for Watson. That might be a place that Watson ends up going.
And I think they've been connected to him, actually. That could be.
Yeah, I mean, I to me, like, I'm hoping if I am a GM, that's my hope. That's what I'm putting or I ride with Hurts a little bit longer and just see what he can do. But that's not going to get you excited.
No, and I think if you're going with Hurts one more year, you're basically saying I think you try for Watson. You try for
maybe one of the draft picks
for Rodgers. Like you try to get one of those guys, and then if you fail, you just go, "Hey, there wasn't a guy out there that made sense.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just punt on this season, keep Hurts there."
Yeah.
And
I think that's the most likely scenario.
It is the most likely scenario, but I could see them. I can see them being a team that's desperate enough to try to bring Watson in because that fan base. I mean, you go to a Super Bowl and you're at the height, and then it just
drops
like a rock, and it's just stayed at the bottom of the like.
Kind of a joke of a team. That's
the kind of fan base that doesn't do that.
No.
They don't allow their team to stay bad for an extended period of time. So they're clamoring.
Yeah.
So there might be the pressure there to give into Houston's crazy demands, even though everybody in the league is going, how do you think you're trading a guy that set out all of last year for like 5 assets? That's not happening. But maybe Philadelphia gets desperate enough to do it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, so then we got we did the Giants, we did Washington. Interesting team.
That is an interesting team. I thought, obviously Heineke played above his level, but his level wasn't very high to begin with. He
Right.
played above his level, ultimately not the guy. I thought that he did some things fun. He's kind of like a Gardner Minshew kind of a guy, where he just gave that heart. He's that little heart. He's that Rudy character out there. I mean, loved him. Loved watching him play. I thought it was cool. They do have some good pieces on their team, and I think if they were in the running to land a guy that was much improved, their team would be much improved. You know, they would, again, like you talk about the division itself. I think any one of these teams in that division that ends up with a good quarterback is going to, you know what I mean,
Compete with Dallas.
Compete with Dallas.
Yeah.
So, but I would say that to me, I see a lot of people connecting them to Wentz, and I think that's probably the best thing. I think that is going to happen. I think that is our biggest trade.
Well, I see them connected to Wentz. I see them connected to Jimmy G.
Maybe
I see them
Trubisky.
connected to Trubisky, Derek Carr. I've seen them connected to that.
Yeah.
And you just go, okay, everybody knows they're desperate to get a quarterback. Now, what I think would be personally, what I would love to see happen is Kirk Cousins go back there. Okay, they were building towards something, and then he wanted to get paid more than they thought he should be worth. So now he knows he's not worth as much as he thought. They got to kind of get the last laugh on that deal. So let's reunite those two and let Kirk Cousins lead them to the playoffs a few times and make good on that promise that was there that they always kind of just fell a little bit short of, and then blew up because he thought he was worth more than they thought he was.
I can see it.
I would love that. Like, just the irony of it, and like that feels like an NFL story.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like a 30 for 30 down the road. Who would have thought that you could come back home again and make right? Like, it just feels like, you know, I can see it. I can hear the 30 for 30 happening. And like, so I'm kind of secretly hoping for that, but I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I feel like maybe a Baker Mayfield or a Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I think that's probably
two
the most
likely options.
Agreed.
But I'm kind of really hoping that it's Carson Wentz because I just want him off my team. But yeah, I think that's probably a good destination for him.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then so Dallas obviously they locked up Dak. He's going to be their guy.
Yep.
Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
No reason to talk about that.
Sure.
All right, so now we're moving to the NFC South. Let's start with Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I hear the trade rumors with Matt Ryan, but those things have been happening for years as well, and it just, to me, it doesn't even make sense. Like, I mean, like, if you're, like, just keep him, you know what I mean? At this point
His
in time,
contract.
Like, yeah.
His contract makes him really hard to get rid of, for me.
And, like, what are you going to do? What else are you going to do? I mean, like, you can't, I don't know. Unless they're just ready to mail it in. He's the bright spot on their team. He's pretty much the only bright spot in that tight end. I mean, keep him.
I think Atlanta's in this position where it's like draft one of the guys in the draft. Did they draft somebody last year?
I'm pretty sure that they did, and I can't remember who.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember.
I thought that they did draft a young quarterback.
Well, okay, so if they have one already, but I can't remember who they drafted, so maybe it's like a later round that isn't the guy.
Yeah.
But maybe if they like one of these guys that's like late first, early second, maybe you take a chance on a guy. Ritter. Yeah, one of those guys. If you're scouting,
Strong.
if your coaches and scouts like the guy, you know, we don't know. We're not that level. We don't know. But if they like the guy, it would make sense to draft that guy. Let him sit behind Ryan for a year or two.
Sure.
You know, when you get to the point that he's in the last year of his contract and it's possible to trade him without killing your cap situation,
it doesn't make sense. Right?
Then you trade him and see what you can get out of him. But he still has enough. He's too much of a dead cap space right now to trade him.
Yeah,
so I don't see it happening personally. But you know, I mean, and you have to at least feel comfortable with him being a leader in your locker room. He's been the leader in your locker room for a long time. So going through the rebuild, having that kind of leader around makes sense.
Terrible quarterback.
No, he's still an above average quarterback. Yeah, it doesn't fit your timeline. But again, I don't think you trade him when it hurts you to trade
this
him.
year, yeah. I mean, there's
so that's probably a year away. Next year, that'll probably be the name that we're talking about.
Sure.
Filling one of these gaps for one of these teams.
Maybe the next guy the Colts are looking to fill after they bomb with the next. They bring in BakerMayfield and then they get rid of him.
You take your chance with Trubisky, and then if he doesn't work out, you go for Matt Ryan next year. That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so then New Orleans.
I really feel like they're sticking with Jameis Winston.
I feel like
that's
too.
going to get done.
I think they're in a rebuild mode, but there's no quarterbacks out there that make sense for them to go through in the draft.
And he could still have a lot of upside. We unfortunately didn't get to see a ton of that because he got hurt.
He does have upside, and he's cheap. He's a cheap starting quarterback.
And he already knows their offense. I mean,
there's enough familiarity there. He'll come in cheap enough that it ain't going to hurt you with their cap issues that they have. And I don't think it makes sense for them to draft this year.
No.
So, I think as they kind of move on from the Breeze, Peyton era, that it makes sense just to give him one more year and then readdress next year. Or maybe even 2 or 3 years, just if he's cheap enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you're happy with him, might as well. But he's
also to kind of be the guy through,
where he's cheap enough where if you're not happy with him, you can let him go.
Right. Yeah, similar to what we were talking about in the other situations like the Dolphins, where it's like you can, or not the Dolphins, I'm sorry, the Jets, where you build around the guy, and then if you're not happy with it, or the Houston, you build around the guy. If you're not happy with him, then you bring in the quarterback once all the other pieces are in place.
Yeah, no downside.
But during this rebuild, he's young enough, the potential's still there. Why not stick with him?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Panthers.
What a mess.
They're like very similar to Washington. They're linked to every quarterback out there.
Yeah, and every quarterback would be, and it's all it is just patchwork. They're not going to find nobody's going to them. Nobody's saving them. They're going to find the next patchwork guy, or hopefully they, like you said, hit lightning in a bottle and be able to reform somebody like a Mitch Trubisky.
Like Trubisky, Mayfield. That feels like a
maybe
good...
Carson Wentz. You know what I mean? Those are the guys.
And they're linked to all those guys.
And that's probably what's going to happen is they're going to get one of those middle of the pack guys.
Or they'll get a guy in the draft and they'll go with them. But I think
which I actually have seen them. I think that they are linked. Like they're looking at drafting if they can get one of those two guys. I think so.
Yeah. And the other thing too is they feel like the kind of organization that reaches on a guy where we go, like, we love this guy in the late second, third round, but and they just picked him 12th.
Yeah, 100%.
That feels like
they went too hard after Sam Darnold. They went too hard after Teddy Bridgewater. None of these guys are the answers, and chances are they don't know how to evaluate for shit, and they're not going to get the right answer.
That's probably right. That's probably right. I just realized something because I'm about to say Tampa Bay, and I just realized that division is
a hot mess.
Terrible.
It's a hot mess.
It's crazy.
It went from being like a really strong division to a hot mess real quick.
Like so fast.
Real quick.
So fast.
Real quick. And Matt Ryan's so good, but the rest of his team sucks.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to keep Matt Ryan. You might win the division with Matt Ryan and a bunch of misfits.
Bungle into it.
Because the other quarterback situations are so bad.
It's awful. Yeah, as we're talking about it, you're right. It's awful.
Tampa Bay. Okay, so Tampa Bay, back-to-back really good teams. Brady's not going to be there. What are you getting?
I could see a Jimmy G going there as well. I could see like a guy like that. I could see a
How hilarious would that be? Jimmy G following Brady. There's some irony there for sure.
Yeah, especially if he led them to something.
If he leads them to a Super Bowl,
that would be great.
Oh man,
don't see any of those things happening.
I don't think so either.
Except for the trade. I mean, I could see them bringing in a Jimmy G again. I think that's a team very similar to. They have that guy Trask, but I don't think he looked very good because they didn't sound like they're too confident in that. You haven't heard any talk about it.
Yeah, so. I think he's probably so that's probably where you do another lightning in the bottle thing. You still have Trask behind him, so Jimmy G makes sense. The thing is, Arians before Brady got there was the throw the ball down the field guy, so he's going to want a big arm guy. Carr would make a lot of sense if Carr's available.
Yeah. You think?
But we don't know if he's available.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with these big guys too. Is like, I mean I think. The way that they built their team might be attractive to some of these guys.
And how often have the Raiders and the Bucks, the two Pirates, how frequently? I mean, you got Gruden, you got like right. There's Gannon, like all these guys go back and forth between those two. So maybe Derek Carr, maybe that's just meant to be. Maybe that's Derek Carr's best decision. But I think they will try hard to get somebody. But in the end, they might have to settle for a Trubisky or maybe a Baker and be one of the last people in line just because of circumstance. But I think they will try hard to
like
trade.
You talked about that division. I mean, like if you were to bring in Derek Carr, you probably would definitely win your division. Like definitely.
I think you would.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not even so sure that you could bring in Trubisky. Baker. Like
we'll have to see how that goes. But that's interesting. That's a very interesting one.
Yeah, it's funny because even like prepping for this, it didn't cross my mind.
Oh yeah, that's right.
All four of those teams are in trouble at the quarterback. Atlanta's not in trouble, but he doesn't fit.
Well, the rest of the team is not.
It's funny too because like if you put him on any other team in that division, then it's a contender. But because he's on Atlanta
and the roster that
I mean, they're basically going to be like what the East has been. They're going to be like that team where it's like if somebody can get to 8-8, they're going to the playoffs.
It's rough.
Okay, so moving on to the NFC North.
Let's start with your Bears.
Let's start with my Bears. Do we have... Okay. We know that I don't like Fields. The audience will get to know that I don't like Fields. And I want nothing more than like 2 years from now to go, what was I ever thinking doubting this kid? But the doubt is still there. I'm optimistic that we brought in a coach. They specifically brought in the OC because he's supposed to be magic with quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers loved him. Obviously a lot of success there. So I'm hoping that he finds a way to pull some of that Ohio State magic out. I don't see it. I'll talk about, down the road when we do our like free agent stuff. I'll be talking about that. That'll be a big topic. But right now, I'll just say, like, I'm cautiously optimistic. He's obviously not going anywhere. They hired the new GM and coach around them believing in him. So that's, I'll be having this conversation with him for several years. And I just hope at some point I have to go, boy, was I wrong.
I hope that you are too. I liked Justin Fields coming out and thought that he would be a good answer for your team. Did not look that way at all.
No.
But we'll have to see going forward. And I'm not big on the coach. Why is his name slipping my mind right now? Their coach that they just let go.
Nagy.
Yeah. Matt Nagy. I'm not a big fan of him, and that's why I talk about Trubisky the way that I do, where I say, like, I'm not sure that Trubisky's not a better quarterback than people think he is, because I don't think he's good. I don't think Nagy was good at all.
No.
And I think that...
And he showed signs. It was there.
Signs of that. So, like, I think that there's a possibility that somebody else comes in, turns the ship on Justin Fields, and I hope, but again, like you said, that doubt, even for myself who thought that he would be a good one, yeah, it's kind of creeped in a little bit. So I could see as a fan, I would be living and just like, Did we really trade up for this guy?
I mean, it's anyway. Yeah,
but we agree they're sticking with him. There's nothing,
he's not going anywhere. Yeah, so we might as well move on. Yeah. Okay, so Detroit feels like they will draft somebody.
Yeah, totally. That
they're
maybe, not ready to win.
Probably
right
not in the first round because there's nobody worth being drafted in the first round.
Carson Strong or
but in the second round. Yeah. I feel like they're going to draft somebody. That guy can be behind Goff. And then in week 10, they'll throw him out there and see what he can do once they've been eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah, just
and
continue to just not be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
Detroit's win with Matthew Stafford.
I think Detroit's very likely to go that route.
They're not winning with Jared Goff, and they're not winning with.
No. But they got to bring some. I think you got to bring in a young guy.
I'm sure.
Unless you hate them all. Unless you're just like, none of these guys are any good.
Yeah, because I don't think that they're sold on Jared Goff. I mean, you wouldn't want to be. I
don't think so.
Look good at all. So.
Yeah. At this point, the jury's out on Jared Goff, and he ain't gonna get it done.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think that they got a good enough roster to go, hey, let's see what Mayfield has to offer, or let's see what Trubisky has to offer, because it's just like
there's holes everywhere.
They have so many holes to fill.
Swiss cheese.
Why do that now?
No.
So I mean, I think you either just stick with golf and not worry about
try to build a team
and just build the other pieces. Or you stick with golf.
For the 950th time since they've been in existence that they just continue to do this
game. Or you stick with golf unless you have a guy in the second or third round that you feel... Like maybe you're the Seahawks and you got a really high rating on Wilson and you can't believe you dropped to the third round. So even though you weren't planning on going quarterback,
like Carson
you
Strong,
go ahead and grab him.
Like that.
Yeah, you go ahead and you grab him.
And hopefully it turns out good.
And then hopefully he turns into Russell Wilson. But unfortunately, you don't have the rest of that Seahawks team, so that's probably not going to happen. All right, so then the Packers. I mean, the Packers quarterback situation will be the talk of the NFL between now until, like we said, until Rodgers either says I'm back or there's a trade.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a possibility that he stays with him.
You know two things. You got Aaron Rodgers until you don't, and when you don't, you got Love.
Yep.
And that's what you know, and it's not going to change.
Nope.
So whether it's this year or next year or when Rodgers finally hits free agency, that's your situation. And it ain't changing.
Yeah.
The Vikings. Time to move on from Kirk Cousins. Obviously.
Yes.
They are also, much like a couple of these other teams we talked about, they're linked to every single... They're not linked to Aaron Rodgers because there's no way he's going there. But they're linked to everyone. They'll probably get someone.
Jimmy G.
I don't know. Maybe. It's possible. It's just a recycle. It's like here's a level of quarterback. We're going to go get a guy very similar to that level of quarterback. Now, given the fact that this is the way the Bears organization has worked for my time in the league or watching,
they go get Trubisky.
They get Trubisky, and he turns into an All-Pro. And suddenly, no matter how good our defense is, we can't sack him. and he runs around like a crazy man and just chucks the ball up in the air, and somebody comes down for a touchdown every time we play him, and he just owns us for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
That, I think, could happen. But I think that that's the kind of player they're going to be bringing in. I don't know if they're going to draft
between Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield, like, you know what I mean? If they send,
well, there's been a lot of talk that maybe they just trade those two straight up for each other.
I mean, I can see
that could make sense.
I don't see them as an attractive place for anything Wilson or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if the Browns are willing to do that, if I'm the Vikings, I do it in a heartbeat.
Maybe Deshaun Watson. I could see Deshaun Watson going to the Vikings as well. And if he does, he improves their team a lot.
Oh, sure.
I think that's their best case scenario. If I'm a GM, again, Watson's the guy I'm looking at going.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, especially if Rodgers gets traded out of the division.
Yeah.
If you can get Watson, you're probably the favorite to win the division.
Absolutely.
Just based on that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I could see that if they get desperate, like what we talked about with a couple of the other teams, that I think there's going to be a level of desperation that needs to bring in Watson because, at least especially until the legal issues are cleaned up, what they're asking for, I just don't think you can risk it until you know, unless you're just completely desperate.
Yeah.
So, okay. Last but not least, the NFC West. So let's start with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I think that they stay with Kyler Murray. There's a lot of talk about him leaving. I'm not.
You're not buying the hype that he suddenly can't stand this organization and he's going to force his way out no matter what?
No, I think this is a relationship that got a little rocky for a second. Like, you know what I mean? Somebody was in the club, maybe staring a little too long at somebody dancing, you know what I mean? So they're in an argument. But not long term. They're staying together, and it's just a little bit of a spat between lovers.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely scenario, although I do, and I've mentioned this to you once, like I do have a scenario that I think could make a lot of sense. It's very specific, and I don't know if it's real or not, but if Kingsbury goes to management and says, I can win with Baker Mayfield just as well as I can win with Kyler Murray, and you can get Baker Mayfield for a 3rd or 4th round pick, and then get 3 first-round picks for Kyler Murray to one of these desperate teams, because he's got to be more attractive than Watson at this point, probably more attractive than Wilson at this point. You don't think?
I mean, I don't know that he's definitely not more attractive than Wilson. I don't think so. I would put him along the lines of like Carr. I would say like they're probably the two at the bottom of those. I would say Watson. To me, Watson's more attractive than them two, with the exception of the off the field issues. Obviously.
Well, sure, but I'm saying at this moment,
I suppose
at this moment, if you're desperate and you're willing to shell it out, you're going to shell it out for him before you do Watson. And
I could honestly see a scenario where a team like the Panthers go out and grab him, like you know what I mean, like trade a whole bunch, and then he comes in and they don't do anything, you know, like whatever. But
you're right, but that's my point. You could get a haul for him. If you could get Baker Mayfield for a 3rd round pick, get a haul for him, and in Kingsbury's mind, Baker gives us just as good a chance as Murray because I coached them both in college, and I know what I'm operating with.
In that one scenario, I think that might be something that could happen. Most likely, though, they all make up, love each other.
I agree. I think it's like a 1% chance it happens, but it's the only scenario that makes any sense to me. None of the others. You don't give up on a guy with that potential, that young.
He has had some success for you. It's not like it was complete crap. You know what I mean?
No, I mean I absolutely think he's. I mean, I would look if they wanted to do a straight up trade for Fields. I'd do it. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I'd probably even toss in some draft capital.
I wouldn't complain if he ended up on the Colts either. So, like, yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Ultimately, that's why I think the Cardinals stick with him.
Well, right, unless it's for the right, like I said, unless they feel like they have a good option. Yeah. Otherwise, or maybe the Cardinals are a destination for Aaron Rodgers, and so you do like a little 3-way trade, get some capital out of Murray, add your own capital, bring Aaron Rodgers in. That's close enough to Hollywood,
Denver or something like that.
Yeah, So
I can see
something like that maybe, but just to get rid of him because he's pouting right now, that's not going to happen. Yeah. Okay, so then we move on to the San Francisco 49ers. They're obviously moving on from Jimmy G. Everybody's acknowledging it. I don't think anybody's even questioning it.
Now the question is do they upgrade or do they stick with Trey Lance?
Do they stick with Trey Lance because he's a young guy? Are they in the market for Aaron Rodgers, who's from that area?
Yeah.
Are they going to try to get Brady to come out of retirement because he's from that area? It's one of those three.
Yeah, they have a very good team, too. They have a very good roster. Love that defense. Oh, gosh, man. Some of the defensive players are so good. And Deebo Samuel, things like that. Like
Samuel.
I think the team is built to win, obviously. Jimmy G's leading them far. That's a good team. And I would if I am Aaron Rodgers, even Russell Wilson, any of them, yeah, I look at that as a very good destination. Now, do they like Trey Lance? Because there's mixed signals coming out of their camp going, oh, he's not ready to play, or man, the things he was doing at camp were ridiculous, or he's too raw, or they're ready to go ahead and stick with Trey Lance.
It depends if you're listening to this 49ers GM or Jimmy G's agent.
Sure, okay.
That's depends. The source of those are the two sources for all of those. It just matters which one you're listening to.
I think, in my opinion, the most likely scenario is that they do stick with Trey Lance, and that Trey Lance becomes the face of I'm ready or not. Would be my opinion. But again, like you pointed out, Aaron Rodgers has connections to San Francisco. That was what he grew up rooting for. Tampa or Brady, same thing. I would not be shocked if either one of those ended up on San Francisco. I would say those two very specifically.
I think
outside
it's
of
those
two
two
is probably
or
stick
Lance.
with Trey Lance.
I agree. It's either those two or Lance for sure. And then you're probably bringing in a high level backup if you're sticking with Lance.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about your boy Mariota yet. Mariota, I think, is that guy this year where it's like San Francisco might like him as a high level backup. I think my Bears might like him as a high level backup. What's one of the other younger guys? Maybe Cincinnati wants to get him as a high level backup that can kind of take over for Burrow if Burrow gets hurt.
I can see that.
Like, so I think those are the kind of teams. San Francisco probably more than any that look at your boy Mariota as a high level backup that you want to bring in.
Sure.
So then moving from them, the Seahawks, we know that Russ has talked about ad nauseum for 18 months now. It's been all about, is he going to get traded or not?
I think he does.
And you think it's time? They're pulling the trigger.
I think it does. Yeah, I do. I think that both of them are ready to move on. I'm not sure. I did feel like it was maybe a little bit of leverage play from him last year. But, I mean, at this point in time, I think that maybe it is. I think that maybe they are ready to move on.
So, the interesting thing to me about that one is...
I mean, is Seattle even built to win right now?
Yeah, so I've actually seen some rumors about them trying to trade DK Metcalf.
I mean, that would hurt, yeah, I mean...
So what if you... Yeah, I mean,
They could send him over the horseshoe. I'd be happy with that. I'd be all right with that.
Yeah, that's a weird one to me, but I think that leaves some...
Maybe they're just ready to blow the team up and rebuild.
And so we talked about it with the Raiders. What we didn't say then, I kind of was holding off on it because... So the teams that he reportedly wanted to look at were New Orleans. I can't imagine that's still the case. Chicago, I can't imagine that's still the case because we have Fields.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
Unless Fields is part of the trade.
I think it's unlikely.
Which, that's my... The way you're hoping for Rodgers, I'm still hoping for that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm hoping for it. So maybe one of the or the Jets putting Wilson in the trade so that you get the young guy.
Yeah.
Maybe one of those teams.
And that is something that I could see maybe happening.
Or the Giants, like you said about the Giants.
I think the Giants.
Big market. The Giants makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, and then Vegas, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't think if you're the Seahawks, you take Carr.
Yeah, probably not.
I think if you're the Seahawks at that point, you're in full rebuild mode, and you're either
Teddy Bridgewater.
You're either going after Trubisky, or you're drafting a guy and just hoping he hit lightning in the bottle.
Sure. I definitely could see them being a team that could go after a guy like Trubisky.
Bridgewater. Bridgewater. That's the answer. Why don't we just bring? You know what they could do? They could bring in Bridgewater, Tyrod Taylor, and Fitzpatrick, and go. You get the first 4 games. You get the second 4 games. You get the third 4 games, and whoever has the best record after those 12 gets to be the starter.
I could see it.
And collectively, they would cost what a normal starting quarterback
costs. It just
costs.
doesn't seem like it's going to be... It just doesn't feel like a team that's built to win and isn't... I mean, it's smart for them to not put that much money into their quarterback anyways. I personally don't think that Russell Wilson even is going to elevate them to the point where they're competing. And so I think it's ready to move on.
So I think to me it's about... the rumors were that we had offered them 3 first-round draft picks, and they said, oh, it's going to take that, plus Roquan Smith, plus our cornerback Johnson, who's a hot young... So it's like 2 young defensive stars plus 3 first-round picks. If that's still the asking price, he ain't going nowhere. So I think it has to come down to them coming off of that and going, okay, clearly this is done. We can still maybe get the 3 first-round draft picks, but we don't need to try to bleed somebody dry.
Sure.
I think it's going to have to come down to that.
They have to beat somebody halfway.
Yeah, they're going to, for it to happen. But if they're willing to do that after what clearly was not good last year, then I think the deal will get done.
Absolutely.
So, and then last but not least, we got the Super Bowl champions. Are they happy with their quarterback situation?
I would say that they probably are happy.
You think they're going to stick with him for another year and see what happens?
It's a little possible.
I think that's likely. We'll put that in the very likely category that they stick with him.
Good for them.
And
good for the Rams.
And it's kind of hard to say that they shouldn't feel comfortable with it since they are the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah. And he did play good.
He played good. I still think he's not on the level of some of those other quarterbacks, but with that team around him,
he's good enough
to win a Super Bowl. Clearly. So, yeah.
Your defense is the star attraction anyways. As long as you got a very competent quarterback on the other side of the ball. He doesn't have to be the best in the league, but he's definitely good enough to win.
And they're still going to be able to shoestring that together for another year or two before it all starts to collapse.
Absolutely.
Which is probably his timeline to retire anyway.
Sure, I look about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, so I think you got, I think that's it. And then it all just kind of collapses.
Yeah.
And then they just start all over. But they probably have, they definitely have the 1 Super Bowl. They might have a second. They probably have at least 2 Super Bowl appearances. And you got to be pretty happy with what all that led to.
Absolutely.
Was
worth it.
As a LA fan. And then they can go back to surfing during the rebuild and then come back and watch them once they get better again. I think that's the perfect way to end our quarterback carousel discussion. And, thank you for joining us on that. Sorry again about the cell phone faux pas. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. And hopefully you enjoy our content. Choose to like and subscribe and all those good things. And we'll see you down the road.